Namo Tassa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa. Namo Tassa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa. Namo Tassa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa. Buddham saranam gacchami, Dhammam saranam gacchami, Sangham saranam gacchami, Dutayambi Buddham saranam gacchami, Dutayambi Dhammam saranam gacchami, Dutayambi Sangham saranam gacchami, Tatayambi Buddham saranam gacchami, Tatayambi Dhammam saranam gacchami, Tatayambi Sangham saranam gacchami. Namo Buddhaya, Namo Dharmaya, Namo Sanghaya. Namo Buddhaya, Namo Dharmaya, Namo Sanghaya. Namo Buddhaya, Namo Dharmaya, Namo Sanghaya. I take refuge until I am enlightened in the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha. Through the positive potential I create by practicing the 6 paramitas, may I soon attain enlightenment in order to benefit all sentient beings. I take refuge until I am enlightened in the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha. Through the positive potential I create by practicing the 6 paramitas, may I soon attain enlightenment in order to benefit all sentient beings. I take refuge until I am enlightened in the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha. Through the positive potential I create by practicing the 6 paramitas, may I soon attain enlightenment in order to benefit all sentient beings. May all sentient beings have happiness and its causes. May they be free from suffering and its causes. May they never be parted from their happiness beyond suffering. May they abide in equanimity, free of bias, attachment to the near, and aversion from the far. I shall cause this. Great compassionate Buddha, please inspire me to be able to do so. Reverently, I prostrate with my body, speech, and mind, and present clouds of every type of offerings, actual and mentally transformed. I confess all of my negative actions accumulated since beginningless time, and rejoice in all the virtues of all holy and ordinary beings. Please remain until psychic existence ends, and turn the wheel of Dharma for all sentient beings. I dedicate the virtues of myself and others to the great enlightenment. However innumerable all sentient beings are, I vow to save them all. However inexhaustible my delusions are, I vow to extinguish them all. However immeasurable the Dharma teachings are, I vow to master them all. However endless the Buddha's way is, I vow to follow it completely. Om Mani Padme Hum. Om Mani Padme Hum. Om Mani Padme Hum. Tayata Gate Gate Para Samgate Bodhi Soha. Tayata gate gate para samgate bude soha. Tayata gate gate para samgate bodhi soha. So now get yourself comfortable for some meditation. I hope you're all well today, as well as can be, as well as possible. So now let's bring our mind inside the body so that we can release the tension from the body. We'll start at the bottom as per usual and work our way to the top. Along the way, as your mind passes these areas or focuses on these areas, you release whatever tension may be there. So now gently close your eyes, lips gently touching, tongue resting on the upper palate, in the mouth. Nice and relaxed, nice clear mind. Focus on releasing the tension. So let's take a few moments to do this now. And now scan your body once more to see if there's any leftover tension that you're still able to release. And if there is, then do it. As we release the tension from the body, we're helping ourselves to release the tension from the mind too. And when you are ready, now place your mind onto the feeling of the breath As you breathe in your nose all the way into your lungs, and then back out your nose again. Just a few extra details to help you continue to focus on the breath seamlessly if possible. As you may notice that the air is quite cool on the back of your throat as you breathe in. Then, of course, the air goes all the way past your chest into your lungs. They expand as they fill with air. They compress as the air leaves them. And you may also notice that the air is quite warm as it passes your throat on the way out and out your nose. Also, an extra technique that you can utilize to help you keep focused on the breath is to count the breaths from 1 to 10. One in-breath and one out-breath is 1, and so on. But if you get distracted on the way to 10, then go back to 1 at that time. Remember, there's no competition with meditation practice, with others or yourself. You just practice here and now. This is what we have right now. Just here and now. Not the past where you may have had some good meditation sessions, or whether you had some bad meditation sessions, or whether this is the first time you're meditating. Just let it go, let go of the past. And also the future never comes. So in this present moment, let's learn and teach ourselves to have or develop this one-pointed concentration. With one-pointed concentration, the mind is clear, calm, tranquil. So breathing in and breathing out. Being here physically, as well as the breathing process of breathing in and breathing out, is all you have to do right now, physically. And placing your mind onto the feeling of the breath, as well as if your mind wanders from the breath, replacing the mind on the breath. That's all you have to do mentally right now. So it's quite uncomplicated, really. What makes things complicated are our habits that we've created over infinite lifetimes. So now we're learning to undo these habits. You can utilize the example of a knot. Maybe we've reinforced certain habits so much so, it's sort of like a knot that has been tied over and over and over again and very tightly. It will take some time to undo this knot or these knots. So it's likewise with these very thick, reinforced habits, mental afflictions and so forth. Some of them may be easy to get rid of, just like when the knot is not tied so tight or as many times. So now we are undoing these mental afflictions, causes of the suffering that we experience from time to time. So now let's practice in silence. After this, some more very short instruction. If thoughts arise, any mental activity arises, don't cling to it. Don't grasp at it. Also, don't try to force it away or deny it, but simply and naturally let it go, peacefully let it go by refocusing onto your breath, replacing your mind onto your breath. And if your mind starts to become dull or sleepy, then wake it up a little bit by refocusing on your breath more brightly. So let's practice like this in silence for a few minutes. So now we can feel very pleased with ourselves for engaging in this short session of meditation. I encourage you to do longer meditations when you do them normally. As mentioned many times, the reason we do a short session here is to give us some practice, meditation practice during these Zoom classes. But because it's such a short time that these classes go for, and we should have more Dharma talk time, so at least we get between about 20, 25 minutes of Dharma talk per class, unless there's longer meditations, of which we just are doing today slightly, because I'm giving some more explanation, giving you some Dharma talk during the instruction on the meditation as well. Also reminds you that when we do the chanting now, we're doing it quite fast. So I think it takes maybe about 3 minutes to give us that extra minute or so to talk or meditate. And so if you do these practices or you do this chanting of these verses, then do it a little bit slower, okay? So like we used to do before I decided to do them quicker. Normally takes about somewhere between about 4.5 to 5 minutes. Okay, so instead of going Namo Tassa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa, it's more like Namo Tassa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa, like that, And so now we can switch techniques to the loving kindness meditation to develop more loving kindness and friendliness based on a mind of equanimity, non-biased mind. Because most of the time we do attach, even if we're really good people, really good practitioners, we still have attachment to those and that which we find pleasing. We have aversion from those or that which we find unpleasant, even if it's very subtle still. So we're working to develop this mind of equanimity. And by practicing this loving kindness meditation, which includes compassion and empathetic joy, that we're helping ourselves to do this, okay? And also remember, the loving kindness is the antidote for anger and hatred and so on. So the more your mind is filled with loving kindness, the less likely you are to get angry, act upon hatred. So the more the cup is filled with pure water, the less it is filled with grime. In other words, that's a metaphor in a sense for the more the mind is filled with loving kindness, the less it is filled with hatred and anger. So now forget everything I just said and follow the instructions. Fill your whole being with the universal loving kindness to oneself. You can just go with the feeling if you like, which is of utmost importance, or you can utilize the visualization technique as well. Visualize your whole being filling with the white light, or if you prefer, white nectar. This universal loving kindness is translated into English there from the Pali metta, or Sanskrit maitri, and it's very closely related to the word mitra, which means friend or friendliness. And also it's a multifaceted word, so we can utilize honesty and forgiveness, appreciation, respect. All of these come under the umbrella of metta. That's why I like to put the word universal in front of it, universal loving kindness, because also it can be developed beyond measure and benefit innumerable living beings. So fill yourself with this universal loving kindness, with this white light. So much loving kindness that it now overflows and radiates outwards, initially to your loved ones, family, and friends, and fills them with the universal loving kindness too. May they be happy, free from suffering, and may they be peaceful. And you can be quite creative in this type of meditation. You can maybe visualize them in front of you, actually really are happy. And any sufferings that they may experience, they are free from them now. They are really peaceful. So now let's extend and radiate this love and kindness also to strangers, those people you may know a little bit or not at all, filling them with the universal love and kindness and the white light too. You can pick just one person or a few or multitudes. May they also be happy, free from suffering, and be peaceful. Now slowly radiating this loving kindness out further and further. Now also include those you may regard as enemies, those people you find very difficult to be around, or maybe they behave very badly. And maybe even just the thought of them makes you upset. So now we're working to give up this mental affliction, this aversion. Extend the loving kindness to them, utilizing the white light, wishing that they are happy, free from suffering, and are peaceful. And it may be helpful for me to remind you now that to have happiness, you must cause happiness. The universal law of karma, cause, condition, and effect, or just cause and effect. To be free from suffering, you must avoid the causes of suffering. So really, we are wishing that all of these people, and eventually all living beings, as we progress through this meditation, to be free from the causes of suffering, free from all of the negative mental afflictions, and for them to have all of the good qualities, such as this loving kindness, and cause happiness. So now let's extend this loving kindness out further and further distance-wise. Initially around your immediate area, now to all living beings, not just people. Those living beings that live on the earth, even under the earth, in the waters, the salt water, the fresh water, fly through the air, whether they're born from wombs, eggs, moisture, or through transformation. May all of these living beings have happiness, be free from suffering, and be peaceful. And now extend the loving kindness out further and further again. Now our momentum is increasing with this radiating of this loving kindness. Radiate this loving kindness to all living beings throughout your whole state or county. All sentient beings, whether weak or strong, great or small, short or tall, seen or unseen, near or distant, born or to be born, may they all be happy. And now throughout other states and counties throughout your whole country. Throughout other countries, throughout the world. Initially, those you have an affinity towards, also those that you're indifferent towards, and even those that you may have some sort of negative feelings towards. Until your loving kindness pervades throughout this whole planet, throughout all of the oceans, all of the bodies of water, all the way down to the core of the earth, to the outermost atmosphere. Now radiate this loving kindness throughout the whole solar system, to all living beings, whether you know about them or not. Throughout all of the solar systems, throughout the galaxy, to all of the galaxies throughout the universe, and beyond. until your loving kindness pervades throughout infinite space. This infinite, immeasurable loving kindness, unlimited. Whilst also being present here and now to recite the dedication prayer. Due to this merit, may I soon attain the enlightened state of the Buddha, so that I may be able to liberate all sentient beings from their suffering. May the precious bodhicitta, not yet born, arise and grow. May that born have no decline, but increase forevermore. And may the precious view of shunyata, not yet born, arise and grow. May that born have no decline, but increase forevermore. In other words, may we and all sentient beings develop this immeasurable loving kindness and compassion called bodhicitta, awakened mind of compassion, the altruistic intention, as well as realize the supreme wisdom of emptiness, and also the Buddha nature, this nature that you can't even call it nature, you can't call it anything actually, but we all have the potential to attain the enlightenment of a Buddha. It's our true nature. So when this loving kindness, compassion, or bodhicitta is unified with, perfected and then unified with this wisdom, then this is what we call Anuttara Samyak Sambuddhi, and in Sanskrit, or Samma Sambuddha, in Pali, unsurpassed supreme enlightenment. Then no more worries, as we say in Australia, I think in Britain too, no more worries, mate. So, of course, I don't know if you've seen the article I wrote many years ago now, maybe even about 10 years ago, for the UN Vesak in Australia, United Nations Day of Vesak, and for a Buddhist magazine. Anyway, so it was called No Worries, Mate. And basically what I spoke about was, or wrote about, was no worries means you are practicing the Eightfold Path. Then you have no worries. Mate, we're all friends. The true meaning of the word is we're all interrelated, really, isn't it? Whether the mate is family or your loved ones or a friend of some sort, we're all friends, really. Even the enemies are really friends because they help us to develop more patience and so on. So no worries, practice the Eightfold Path. Mate, practice the four immeasurables of universal loving kindness, compassion, empathetic joy based on equanimity. Okay. So today I've kind of given the Dharma talk throughout the instruction as well. That's why we've taken so long before we get to the so-called official Dharma talk. But I wanted to point out a few things along the way during this meditation instruction, as well as encourage you to practice, to also practice for longer periods with the meditation, to slow down the chanting when you're doing it by yourself or with others. And so I think now maybe we have about 13 minutes, 14 minutes or something. And so, as you know, I'm continuing to answer questions that were asked throughout the past year or so while we were doing the commentary on the 8 verses of thought transformation, which took about 9 months, I think, or 10 months. And so I'm answering these questions by utilizing my book. And because the answers are in the quotes and the explanation of the quotes throughout the book, I decided to do this because it's a little bit more interesting for you, variety, spice of life, as I say, instead of answering them blandly under subjects such as cause and effect, things like that, which I've done in previous times. And of course, we do this Q&A stuff after you guys send me questions. I answer them in writing to you, and then speak about them during the classes as well at the appropriate times. And we've been doing that in between the formal studies, the formal subjects, okay? So this is what we're doing at present. We're up to, I think last week we did quote 37 out of 50. So we're getting towards the end there. And then, of course, we'll move on to the next major subject. Okay, so quite hot here today. I think Melbourne, 39 degrees or something. Phillip Island here, it's a little bit less than that. I think it said something like 32, but then on my laptop now it says 35. So Of course, the laptop, I don't know if the laptop's actually measuring the temperature in my room right now or whether it's actually related to the internet. I have no idea about these things. So it's quite hot, and I didn't put my underrobe on because of that. Anyway, so last week we had a look at number 37. And the reason I mentioned how hot it was is my glasses may fog up. I hope they don't. So anyway, Dharma transcends culture and tradition. So we had a look at this last week, but I said I needed to revisit it because we were getting close to the end of class. Once again, I'll say quite often short quotes, and even this one, a short explanation, are quite deep sometimes, and they need more explanation. Quite often, I think people think, and I did in the beginning, way back, when I first started really studying the Dharma, was the longer sutras were more profound than the shorter ones. But so often it's the other way around, because the shorter ones are like compressed version of the longer ones. You need to know the teachings in detail in the longer ones before you can get to really understand the teachings in the shorter ones. Example of that is the Perfection of Wisdom teachings, Prajnaparamita Sutras. And so the longest one we have existed in the world today is 100,000 stanzas long. And to remind you, a stanza can be as little as 4 lines or could be a few pages even, depending on the subject matter at hand at that time being explained. Anyway, so the Heart Sutra, of course, is one long stanza, a couple of pages. And the Heart Sutra covers everything in the 100,000 stanza sutra. Okay, so that's why sometimes, even in my own writings, commentary on the Buddhist teachings, different ways to express the Buddhist teachings, trying to give different examples related to them, say, modern times. Sometimes these are written in short form, which is this one is. Both relative and ultimate truth transcend culture and tradition. The Four Noble Truths and the Eightfold Path transcend culture and tradition. The result of the Dharma path, enlightenment, transcends culture and tradition. Namo Buddhaya. Namo Buddhaya, translated, can mean homage to the awakened one, the enlightened Buddha, or can mean I take refuge in the enlightened one. So the way we chant it before the class is taking refuge, having confidence and trust in the Buddha, and then of course the Dharma, his teachings, and so on. Okay, that's why I put that at the end there. But Namo Buddhaya also means you take refuge in your own enlightened nature. And this is based, you could say in this sense, is based on what we call the foundation, the path, Dharma path, and the result of the Dharma path. The foundation is basically, can also be known as the ground, and this is the basis of our practice. So it's the two truths, relative truth, which we're existing in now, based on cause and effect. Everything we experience, we cause ourselves, all the happiness, as alluded to earlier, all the suffering, and all of the indifference. So we are living in this relative truth right now. We need to practice to get to understand and work with this relative truth to break beyond it, to penetrate beyond it, and realize what we call the ultimate truth, the truth of emptiness or wisdom of emptiness. And so we're working our way in this relative path, based on this ground or this foundation of the path, to work our way towards realizing the supreme wisdom and the great compassion, as I alluded to earlier. Okay. And then, of course, that's the first part, that's the ground. The second one is the path. And the path is actually the Four Noble Truths. We want to get to understand these Four Noble Truths. The truth of unsatisfactoriness or suffering, the truth of the cause of unsatisfactoriness, which is the attachment based on ignorance, and then the truth of the cessation, in other words, the freedom from this cause of suffering, and then the path on how to do it, the Noble Eightfold Path. Okay, so normally we say the path is the Eightfold Path and all of the other related aspects and details, but really the Four Noble Truths is because we want to penetrate them. We really need to get to know this so that we can develop this great compassion for all living beings and realize the supreme wisdom within ourselves. Okay, so it's only 5 more minutes to go. Wow. Anyway, so I'll repeat this. Both relative and ultimate truth transcend culture and tradition. The Four Noble Truths and the Eightfold Path transcend culture and tradition. The result of the Dharma path, enlightenment, transcends culture and tradition. Namo Buddhaya. Okay, so I'm utilizing the examples of culture and tradition because all human beings, we tend to grasp hold of these. Sometimes we like it, so we cling to it, have attachment to it. Sometimes we don't like certain ones, whether our own or others or whatever, and then we have an aversion towards it and you want to push it away. Okay, so these are the types of attachment and types of aversion based on ignorance, lack of understanding. Remember the word for ignorance in Pali is avijja, Sanskrit avidya, and this is the opposite of vidya or vijja. Vijja or vidya means to know something for sure. And you put an A in front of it, avijja, means a lack of knowing, so a lack of wisdom. We translate that into English as ignorance normally, okay? So I think that'll do for the moment. I was going to explain the Four Noble Truths more and the Eightfold Path more, but many of you know this already, considering we spent, I think, about 6 months on the Eightfold Path when we first started doing these Zoom classes. But also because I think if I remember right, the next one is covering it as well, okay? So I think that'll do. Enlightenment, what is enlightenment? I can't tell you because I'm not enlightened, but I can tell you what it's not. It's not suffering. It's not the cause of suffering. It's no path even needed. It's already realized it. You've already accumulated all of the vast amounts of merits, developed this great compassion. You've prepared your mind to understand the nature of reality. You have understood the nature of reality. You have totally absorbed your mind with the nature of reality, the supreme wisdom, the great compassion, and there's no more learning to be done. What I just mentioned there was known as the 5 paths on the way to becoming a fully enlightened Buddha. So that'll do for the moment. The next quote, number 38, says, "Do no evil, do only good. Purify your mind. This is the teaching of the Buddha. This is the path to enlightenment." And this actual quote comes from my song, The Enlightenment, the Teaching. Of many of you are very versed with this song because I gave commentary on it, if you remember, about 1.5 years or more ago. All right, so the Buddha said, "Do no evil, do only good, purify your mind. This is the teaching of the Buddha. This is the path to enlightenment." And I just have enough time to read you the explanation. It's only 3 short paragraphs. I've got 2 minutes left. And then I will explain more next week. Avoid activities of the mind, body, and speech that cause harm and trouble. Engage only in activities of the mind, body, and speech that are helpful and bring benefit to all. Be moral. Practice both calm abiding meditation and penetrative insight meditation, and train your mind to be pure. Constantly and consistently put the teachings of the Buddha into practice. For if you do so earnestly, accurately, and with pure intention, these immeasurably precious teachings will lead you to unsurpassed supreme enlightenment. So that's, like I was saying, I was alluding to earlier, that the previous quote kind of leads on to this one. The previous one is kind of sort of more cryptic in a sense, it's shorter, and then it leads on to this one where there's more explanation. So there's a method to the madness. Okay, so I think we'll leave it there because I know it's just gone under 1 minute and I try not to be cut off. So hopefully you've enjoyed today's class. Like I said, I did a little bit out of order today, but sometimes that's good because if you get attached to the formal order of things, then maybe you need to release yourself from that attachment. So hopefully it didn't irritate you. If it did, recognize that as an attachment and let it go. Work to purify your mind, for all negativities, and absorb your mind with the good qualities of which you already have in abundance. You know, we all have a certain level of loving kindness and compassion and so forth. Let's increase that. Okay. So I rejoice in your meritorious goodness as always. I rejoice in us being or spending time together today. Namo Buddhaya, Namo Dharmaya, Namo Sanghaya.